Hello, my name is Avon, Business Automation Specialist at Relevate, and today we're going to be unboxing ClickUP. So basically, ClickUP is a project management tool. It allows you to create some data tables, some Kanban boards, and a few different things. And there's got quite a lot of marketing around it. They've got quite a cool little logo and some cool little functions, particularly around the browser extension. So let's take a look. Okay, so we're on the website now, and one thing you'll notice is that at the top, we don't really see anything other than just these login, sign up, contact sales. So that means that we've gone on to the landing page. All I did was search for it. And you'll notice there, the first one is add. So that's the one I've clicked. So why don't we just click that one? And you'll notice there's a difference between the landing page and this is the actual site. Now, one of the things I like to do is skip the landing page because the landing page doesn't give me enough features or enough information about the features and functions to make a decision. It's really just about trying to grab an email, trying to get an action, getting those people who are highly emotively driven just to go and do that one little action. So here, let's scroll down. Let's have a look again. You know, I always pay lip service to when they say the companies that use it. Obviously, ClickUp 3.0, we can see they've got the dark mode, whatever floats your boat. And we're seeing a lot of tools like this, particularly with things like Notion and Airtable and ClickUp and Monday.com. They're very flashy. They look nice. They've got great marketing. They've probably got a lot of backing from the share market. But we can have a look. These are just some of the high-level tasks. And I'm just, at this point, going to show you the difference between what's on the landing page to what's on the actual website. So, all right. So I do like integrations. There's nothing worse than something that doesn't talk to something else. Built for everybody. Okay, great. Versatile, seamless. DevOps integrations. That's good, I guess, if you're a coder. And support. All right, cool. Free forever. Replace them all. So they've got a base plan, etc. That's good. So if you're just starting out, it's quite handy. So if I go to extensions, go to manage extensions. I am using Edge. Don't think less of me. So let's go to get extensions for Microsoft Edge. Now we're going to look for ClickUp. All right, so third on the list. Great. All right, so it's not here for Edge, but if I open a Chrome instance, it is. So let's go here. Let's go to Chrome Web Store. Let's go to the web store on this link. Okay, so now we're going to search for ClickUp. All right, so here we go. So we've got ClickUp here. So let's have a look at the Chrome extension. So it's got some tabs in it. That's pretty good. You've got the ability to add some other functions. You've got time tracking, which is quite handy. You can take screenshots, which might be useful, particularly if you're in a very web-based business. Notepad's good for some quick details. Attaching emails. Excellent. All right. So let's go ahead and add that one. Add to Chrome, add extension. All right, I think that one added. Let's have a look here. Go to, I don't see it. ClickUp. All right. These are related. Got it. Okay. So let's open it up. It's there. Okay. So let's pin that one so it becomes visible. And we're going to click on it and we want to log in. Okay, we'll come back to this. In the meantime, let's have a look at, okay, so we finished looking at our landing page. Let's go and look at the website. Okay, so I can see on the website now that we've got a few more options at the top here, and this is what's called a mega menu. So as you hover over it, it gives you a lot more detail. So it gives me a bit more of an indication of what's included in the plan, and we can go to see all features. We'll do that in a second. Sometimes people have a feature page. You can see this one's solution page, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to give you ideas to see how you can use it. Really, most of these platforms are all based off the same basic principles, but they're trying to help you reimagine how you could apply it in your own scenario. So then we've got obviously a see all, learn. I always like a platform that provides you enough training and materials to figure out how to use it. Now, obviously, you can see that there's services, partner program, but then there's plenty of demos, videos, guides. I think it's always a really good thing, particularly if they're trying to grow maybe an ecosystem to help people use the platforms better. And then we've got pricing and, oddly enough, enterprise. Now, ClickUp, as far as I've always been aware, it's been a very lightweight Asana equivalent. and what's called a point solution. It's not the all-in-one. It just does one thing really nice, and that's what people like about it. So what are we going into? Actually, let's scroll the page and just see how much is different. So from the landing page, most of this is different. I can see there's whiteboards. So if you've heard of an app called Miro, if you've heard of an app called Whiteboard inside of Microsoft, there's a lot of cross-pollination in the platforms these days. They all tend to be trying to copy each other. As I said, I do like integrations. I do like when we can get information in, and just as importantly, out of the platform. Now, many platforms do make it hard to leave, but sometimes, and there's something clever with this one that I'll show you in a second, but overall, the site is very similar. You'll notice they've got this comparison page. These are all landing pages that are telling you how that's similar to Monday, Asana, Jira, Trello, but that's the kind of products that they're trying to compete with. So I generally prefer some more enterprise grade tools, but there might be something in here that works for you. And there's no magic bullet. Every platform has something that's not useful to you at all, or isn't quite baked fully, or isn't quite all the way there. So no platform is going to give you everything you ever dreamed of. So just remember that. Okay. So now that we're on the features page and just looking at some of the images, they're very graphical, very visual in the way that they're presenting it with this little GIF here. But I think it can be quite useful to help at a quick glance see what they've got. So you've got list view of tasks with underneath there where you can have like some statuses and assignments. Here, obviously, there's like document highlighting, Kanban boards, and you can see this one here is a bit of a Gantt chart. So let's quickly scroll through and see what we got. So Kanban boards. So whenever you see anything like list view, Kanban board, or Gantt view, or something like that, it's really the same table. It's all based off the list. And all of those are just different views, and it's just a different graphical way to present the same information. I don't ever find them groundbreakingly different. Most platforms are all ending up the same. It's kind of like, there's 140 something countries in the world. There's all these languages, but there's quite a lot of cross-pollination now with, the words that are used interchangeably between nations, and many people speak a certain set of languages. Platforms are kind of the same. People get ideas from other places and they take a bit of this and they take a bit of that. So there's nothing unique. You will see these functions everywhere else. As I'm scrolling through, you can see there's some extra options that you can kind of scroll through. So that's the list view, that's the Kanban view, that's a grid view. Obviously, it's more of a dashboard. That's a calendar view. That's the Gantt chart view. Here's a customizable page view, obviously an embed, sorry, that's the word. Documents, yeah. What else? It's probably more like a knowledge base. This seems to be stealing some of the concepts from things like Confluence and Jira. This kind of looks very much Slack-esque, almost exactly with the hashtag there. We've got Company Pulse, which is really just a status feed. We've got this view, which seems interesting. What is it? Release project. So it's a mind map. Right. This status field. And I look at these and I think, yep, that's kind of cool. But what meaningful output does it have? Is there notifications to the users? Is there some form of, here we go, so resource allocation. But then can you say how much resources that they have in their capacity? It looks like maybe it does. But some things I have found is that the images on the front page don't always accurately reflect the actual features that are available in the product today. And we're looking at the moment at just overview. Then we go back to views. Okay, so they're sectionized, or what's called an anchored scroll. So you will find everything on this page. Sometimes there's a bit more depth in some platforms than others. Looks like we've got some whiteboarding. Okay, so again, Miro, I can think of 5 others off the top of my head: Lucid Spark, Lucid Chart, Draw.io, and they're trying to do very similar things. But if you do everything, you don't necessarily do any one thing well. So that's one thing to be careful of. There's a few videos on here. Anyway, we've done a lot of talking about the features and the functions. Let's have a look at the pricing. This generally is the best place to look for comparing what you actually get on the free plan and then on the unlimited business, etc. Other things too to watch out for, they default to the yearly. So let's click the monthly. Now, did you notice that? Pay yearly and save up to 45%. Most people say pay yearly and you save 2 months, which is a very significant difference. So obviously yearly is far more attractive, but of course it's yearly. So what happens if you've got a staff member that joins you for 3 months or 4 months or something like that? So sometimes monthly, whilst more expensive, can be a lot more beneficial. It really just depends, particularly if you're on the Business Plus. What's the difference? 19, 20, so $10. All right, so feature list, don't forget to expand that. And then you're seeing what you're getting in those. So list space, I don't know what that means. Storage, okay, unlimited, seems right. But then, how locked in is it? How are you going to export? How do you bulk update? What happens when you have 1 million records in the system? Can you actually escape the system? These are things that I want to know. The other thing too is, this looks like it's quite a flexible platform, but do we then have ability or automations per month? We have to work out what an automation is and how useful it actually is. But I also want to know things like bulk action toolbar. It sounds nice. Task checklist. Whilst these platforms are flexible, how much can you lock it down as the manager? How much can you force your users to do only X, Y, or Z? Or at the bare minimum, enter these 3 bits of information. Language processing, okay? So I'd imagine that's mostly in the search. So a lot of times there's some pretty words or extra features that they tell you, which, there are quite a lot of things that you need to put into a platform. But like with a car, if you're going to buy a car, I remember years ago that the ads, if you do this, you'll get free air, as in like free air conditioning. But every car has free air conditioning or has air conditioning these days. Every car has electric windows. Once optional features that were charged extra are now expected to be standard. So natural language search. I naturally, if I'm going to search for something in the search bar and maybe I put the space in the wrong thing, or I didn't type the exact thing, or I started in the middle instead of the start. So if I start with searching my last name instead of my first name, then last name, I still expect to get a result and may have to filter through. So that natural language search may not necessarily be the best thing. So as I go through here, there's different statuses and things. There seems to be a hell of a lot of features. And it's not until you get down to security, there's actually a lot of no's before there's any yeses. And then support. Obviously, support is a big one. So let's dive into the product. Okay, so we're in the product now, and we've got I've just loaded up, I've trialed it years ago, and I've got an instance here which has still got some of the dummy data that I put in. So it'd be interesting to see what's changed. And if you have a look in here, you'll notice imported from Asana. So I actually went and clicked when I was demoing. I had some stuff in Asana, and I went and clicked import from Asana. Now, if you're going to grow a platform, what better way than to make an easy import feature from your competitor? If you use Asana, you can easily migrate over. And I think there are some other platforms that will also provide you with a very easy import tool from those platforms. So let's have a look at some of the features here. I'm just going to start off and go to the home. So why don't we start from the start, and we can see calendar. Now, it would be good to see if I can integrate that with my actual calendar. I do want to know how much does this talk to outside platforms, because there's no good having a calendar in here that then doesn't trigger other things in other places. We've got spaces and dashboards and docs and all those sorts of things. Let's see, let's go into settings, show archived, layout, dark side. Oh, well, that's literally just the sidebar, but I presume you've got dark mode. But I do like the small amount of humor in that. Notifications, and it looks like an expandable list here, which is not much. I can also search. All right, so we've got a lot more in search. So I can search for tasks, docs, whiteboards, dashboards, chats, files, comments, and then we've got these locations. So I can add locations. Looks like the locations is kind of like your workspaces. So maybe like your department. So maybe sales, maybe marketing. Assigned to, so I'm the only one in here, but I could assign to myself. I can look at my profile. I can see my email address, local time, whether I'm online or offline. Oddly enough, it's showing me as offline. And then I can enable or show who it's created by. So maybe I want to filter down and see everything that I've created, or, what happens not only when you get staff members, but when you offboard staff members. What happens when it costs you money for licenses that there's no one there using? I would want to know those sorts of things. Okay, so let's have a look here. We've got lineup, add your most important tasks here. Okay, so it looks like can I click and drag? Yep, add to lineup. I'm going to add that one. And I think sometimes you can have task fatigue. Okay, so we've lined up some tasks. All right, cool. I can add a task. We'll go to test. We'll give it a description. Looks like there's lots of drag to move. Turn into, okay, so there's a lot of layered depth to this. And I think this is something you would have to get practice on and get good at. So quote test, ASDFA, sure. Add a subtask, test, and then add another subtask, test. And I can edit and I can delete attachments. Okay, so I can bring it in from Google, OneDrive, Dropbox, Upload, or Box. I've never used Box. If I go to set dates, okay, so we can set a use by date, 23rd, add a time, that's nice. Okay, need to be done by 1 a.m. And I think sometimes that if it's really easy to add tasks, that sometimes we get excessively granular. So what happens when you've got 1,000 tasks in the system? Do you look at it? Probably not. How do you prioritize? Too busy reading and filtering through 1,000 tasks. What happens if you go too big and then you've got enough detail and granular? That's where tasks and then subtasks can come in handy. So a task could be, I need to close a deal with the client, and some of the subtasks could be send a letter, write a proposal, send proposal, accept. So it may not necessarily matter whether or not you mark off some of those subtasks, but it can be quite handy to know that you've got a process mapped out so that when you've got other staff members in the system, that they can actually handle that. Okay, so dependencies, great. Add waiting on task. I would want to see this mostly in a Gantt chart view where I can click and drag and link things to fix defects. That's waiting on task. And then I can click on done. Great. So now we've got a dependency. I can then create tasks that relate to each other, but not dependent on each other. So say, for example, I can have either a similar set or a group of things that happen in the middle of something else. So say, for example, I'm building a house. I need to have the walls done before I do the painting. But if I'm the electrician and the walls are done, then I can do any PowerPoint I want simultaneously, as long as all the wiring's there, as long as all the walls there. So they would be the similar tasks. All right, so let's have a look. Templates. I do like a template. I don't like this clicking feature where I click on it and it's just disappearing. I don't know what's happening there. Deficiencies, watches. Okay, so clearly I become a watcher. Great. Now let's have a look. There are some other functions under the button and there is a shortcut. So Control plus Enter. And I can never remember keyboard shortcuts unless it's the basic standard group ones. And unless you're really someone who gets stuck in the details, I cannot be bothered remembering every little shortcut for every little platform that's got its own funnies, its own way of doing things. But if you happen to like, or if you do the one task so repetitively, it's worth remembering. Control Enter for a new task, I can get it. Sweet, so let's try it. Control Enter. Okay, so it's just asked me to basically have this pop up. So if I'm not in this at all, and I go Control Enter, nothing. Okay, so does it matter why you're in here? Control Enter. Okay, so maybe that's just saving it. So really all it's doing is I can click that button or I can hit Control Enter. Now with those extra features, obviously we've got create and open, create and start another, create and duplicate. I do like create and start another. If you've got like a string of ideas in your head and you just want to bust them out, that's a great way to be able to go, all right, first you're making a list of 10 things. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. Step 3, do that. I do prefer to do it in a list view. If you've ever worked in Asana, you can just type, enter, type, enter, type. It's like writing a list. And again, going against that, the problem then is that you can create way too many tasks and then it just becomes a mess. So try to think bigger. Try not to get so granular. Ideally a task should take you around 3 hours, something that you need to sit down and do. If you go, all right, I need to answer the phone or I need to call someone, you don't want to say, you want the task to be call someone. You don't want to be reach over, pick up handset. Now, dial numbers, 0, dial 1, dial 2, they're way too granular. Maybe you can make them subtasks if you really want. Actually, what would be better would be task is call Jerry. Subtasks would be discuss pricing, discuss timeline, and then ask for sale. Yeah, that would be good task and subtask. There's one thought, it's one idea, but what I would say is don't get too granular. Make sure you can spend enough time that it's worthwhile. With the description, okay, so you can add a block, right? A block being, this is very Notion-esque if you've ever used that. You can add table, banners, great. This is just a bit of formatting. So it looks like adding a block I can also do with just a slash command, which is a short code. And this is where people are, you can add a code block, checklist, mention a person. Now, I would like to know if I at mention, that's most common. Yep. So I can at mention, I can add watches. So if I want some of my team to see what I'm doing here, that I can do that, or I can assign it. Maybe a watcher. I would say follow is a better word. Watcher is a little bit voyeur-esque. You can then, looks like you can mention a task. So you can link some tasks and then some docs. So particularly doc is good for knowledge management. All right. So we've got type at to mention people, at for tasks, and at for docs. So let's get in here. Let's go at. It's already going for tasks and at, and it's going for docs. So pretty much the same thing we just did there. But again, if you want to remember going at, all right, I'm going to mention a task. Again, unless it's something you're doing 100 times a day, not worth remembering. If I click in here, it is also bringing up that editing here. So I can still do all the dot points, the linkings, add another task, insert clear format. But you're starting to see that there's so many avenues to go down, and we haven't even got past the home page, that this could be really good or it could be really, really bad. So how do I know where to find something if I'm coming in here the first time? How do I know where to go, what to do, what's been done? Maybe there's 5 places to do the same thing. So it's going to get a little bit confusing. Agenda. Let's close this guy. Now, agenda, yep, is basically your lists. Mentions is anytime someone's mentioned me, which can be good. You've got no trending tasks. There's my lineup, which is kind of like my priority, and they've trademarked it. So if you think about, there's the eat the frog, or there's the 7 task principle. It's like, what are the top things that you got to get done? And or maybe you've got your list and you look at 100 things and you're going to pick 7 of them. That kind of highlights my point. Don't have 10,000 tasks in your system. You really need to have enough that you're actually going to see, that you're actually going to do. The only time you have 10,000 tasks if you've got 100 employees. And even then, that's probably too many tasks for that many employees. I still don't even know where to go. This doesn't make enough sense for me. If I look down here, all right, so I would not have known to look down there. There is settings. I can add workspaces. I can add, let's have a look at the settings. White label, click up with your brand colors and logos. I'd imagine that's a paid feature. Yep. Workspace, personal workspace layout. Yeah, if they're going like Asana, work by yourself, turn this on to maximize efficiency. Features, removing features designed for team collaboration. While you could probably do that, I would probably not. Because if you're building a business, what happens when you do get popular and you do get famous and you do get big, you're going to need to have staff. I always think from day one, I always thought about what happens when I've got 100 staff. And I've been building like that from day one. And that has helped me massively. So I would do the same. I would not go solo unless perhaps you never intend to have anyone else helping you ever. If it's a lifestyle business or something like that. So in the people, yep. So this is where you invite members. This side doesn't look as fancy as the front side. Teams, I'd imagine that's just groups of users. All right, I've got to upgrade spaces. So yeah, this is kind of like, so ClickUp's required views. So that's what you can force people to see when they come in for the first time. How do we do that? Tags. Oh, let's go archive space, delete space, go to space, archived, invisible. So let's go to this one and allow it to load. Okay, so we're back in our list view and we've picked a space. If I go back, I don't know where to go back. Here we go. So it's opened in a new tab, which is indicated by the box and the arrow. So I should probably pay attention to that. Here we go. We're back in the list. All right. And that's got an everything bucket. And then we've got a products. These are just the spaces. All right. So here's a simple task list. Online course. Okay, so here we can see we've got the list view and I've got the ability to search tasks. We go into here, we can determine what exactly we're filtering by. And some of the things you can see on the screen, there's a lot of small stuff. I might just zoom in here, make it a little bit bigger so we can see exactly what I'm talking about. We've got a bit of a roll-up summary field telling us that there's 13 tasks. We could sort it. I would never have known to sort it unless I hovered over it. We are showing closed tasks. We could hide. We do have unsaved changes. This view has unsaved changes. Okay, auto save view. We've got the ability to add new task, add description, add comments. So if we add a description, where does the description go? Imported from Asana, sharing of permissions, due date assigned, link unfurl. Okay, add assignees. Where does this go? Okay, so if I wanted a body of text, add a body of text, then that's going to turn up attachments. Again, this is very Asana-esque in the way that it's formatted. Looks like, okay, so you could have like a status, or maybe you could use it as traffic light system, as good or in danger, or like at risk, or there's problems. And then as I hover over, this is where you've got your subtask area. We've got slash commands again, and we can add some more detail here. Again, I do like this. So this could be quite fast if you're someone who likes to click around to do things very, very quickly. But remember, not everybody you hire or you work with are going to have the same ways of doing things. So assign, we've got due date, add, convert, dependencies, templates, copy ID, you tab, copy link. So you could link that in another way. Here we've got some text, which helps us to understand. So if we click into a task, okay, this is new. We've got the ability to add the text there. We've got the to-do. We've got the subtasks, we've got the checklists, any attachments. What's this? Comment. So we've got a comment feed. Yeah, it's very similar to a lot of other platforms. And then we've got assign comment. Okay, so if we want to mention someone, so that just notifies them of the conversation. And I do like conversations in context. And again, our double, triple @ symbol is coming through. We've got mention a task, add emoji, slash commands, which is kind of what we already covered by typing in the slash. Got record screen clip. That can be very useful, particularly when you're trying to convey information. It makes it very easy. And record a voice clip. Hey, could you do this? Particularly if you're trying to move very fast, trying to snap your fingers while you're trying to type 1,000 descriptions. We've got a doc. Okay, a doc looks like a knowledge article. We can put it in the tray, document settings. Do we have security permissions, which I think we looked at when we looked at the pricing. The security permissions are not until you're very high up in the pricing tier. You can save as a template. That's great. Maybe there's a process or like a step-by-step, and you could have like the guiding process centered around a central text that you type up, or maybe you want to apply a template. So you might have a knowledge article that shows step-by-step how to do that task. You could quickly grab it. I would like to see some auto templates. Protect the page, protect the doc, public sharing, archive, share, move, duplicate. Okay, can full screen it, can add a comment, we can favorite it. Comments are good on docs, particularly when you've got a knowledge article and maybe some of the language isn't right, or maybe some of the process that's been used is out of date. So I think it can be quite useful to have comments on knowledge articles or docs. But I almost feel a little bit lost, a little bit overwhelmed. We can move the task, add to a task to another list. Again, would not have known that was there. Obviously, what they're trying to do is reduce the amount of stuff on screen so that you're not being overwhelmed by 1,000 options, which I get it. And I think it makes a lot of sense. So we've made our little comment there, and that was the document. And then someone can give it a thumbs up to say they've read it or they've understood it, or that they agree or whatever. So I think that can be quite useful. Email, looks like we can email out of here. So you might have to do a SPF or DKIM authentication, so that it can send on your behalf and end up in the inbox instead of the spam. Let's have a look through here. It's got 4 subtasks. You can assign. A task is not a task unless it's assigned to a person and has a due date. Then you can hold that person responsible. I wouldn't think about, okay, so templates in it, browse templates. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, I wouldn't think about doing a task or a random task without first having some form of person who is responsible and some finish date that it actually has to be done by. Otherwise, what's keeping them from just never doing that task? Or what's keeping them, like, who's actually responsible for it? Who are you going to go hold accountable for that actual task? So there is some templates in here. Looks like there's some global templates provided by ClickUp. But one thing that I'm failing to see here is a level of management control. Yes, you can kind of do anything in here, but what's stopping me from doing something that no one else in the business is doing? What's stopping me from creating a new workspace or adding information in the wrong spot, or maybe, okay, so there is some list level things. And can I select all in the list? No, but I can do bulk. Now what do? Oh, there's a bar up the top here. So it looks like I can bulk assign who can see it, bulk assign assignees. I'm going to make me. Yep. So that assigned me in bulk. I can set a status. So let's find out the status is, I won't send myself a notification, but look, hopefully if I can, okay, so they're random statuses across all of the tasks. But if I had a centralized group of statuses, I could then assign them all to in progress or completed or whatever. I'm not able to add tags in this space. Subtasks, I have a subtask, so I can't create subtasks, or I can't convert them to subtasks. But then I would assume I would need to select the parent task. Move tasks, duplicate, set due dates, which is good. I can set them all as next week. But one thing I'd like to do is like a select all kind of option. So that's a card within, and I can swap them, which is good. And this is one other thing that I want to check. No, can't do that. I wanted to see if I could add them like a list. So new task, test 1. Test 2. Okay, so this is what I was talking about with that Asana model, where I can quickly get an idea out. And then it looks like if I wanted to group them in a particular way, I can then go and use these options up here. Task linking, merge tasks if I've created 2. Dependencies. ClickUp is not turned on. Let's click app. So apps are things that you can use that are like little tools or functions. Inbox, delete, copy to clipboard. And we have our slash commands again. But let's have a look at what they are. Assign, due. It basically seems to be about 10 different ways to do the same set of things. So sidebar settings, no. And again, we can't get into platform or system settings until we click this little down arrow. So it's really hard to see exactly where to go. All right, let's go to ClickUps, because we've seen that a few times. So ClickUps, all right, so it looks like we can turn things on. That recording thing comes from, replaces Loom. Loom is quite good, but as with everything, there's usually a plan limit because you've got to pay for storage space. So this only works in Chrome and Firefox. As we discovered, I couldn't use it in Chrome. So let's see if I've got ClickUp here. No, I don't. And I did say I was going to trial it in the other platform. Basically, Chrome extensions are pretty good for this one. I won't go into too much detail, but I think we have a limited number, learning about ClickUps, I think we have a limited number of how many things we can turn on. Collaborative editing, love the idea of that. Automation, it's great, but I think it's very basic. Let's have a look. Comment reactions. I guess that could be handy. Let's turn that on. Custom fields, great. Task IDs. If you've got a large volume of very similar tasks, task IDs are great. But it's a business only plan. Let's have a look. Dashboards. Yep. Default private view. Enterprise plan. No security or privacy unless you're on the enterprise plan. Dependency warning, docs, email, and we can do with that for, so we can specify whether or not spaces have access. GIFs are great. I think GIFs are generally underutilized. When you got a team and sometimes you just need what hard work that was, or something like that, some kind of emotive driver to say, hey, we're all on the same team here. GIFs can really bring a lot of personality to an organization that is either working completely remote or maybe might be a little bit dry or boring otherwise. So incomplete warning, I like that. So prevent closing tasks with unresolved subtasks. So sometimes that may not be useful. Sometimes it's very useful. Lineup. We've got multiple assignee preview documents is quite useful. So there are quite a lot of apps, and without going through all of them, it looks like you can turn on, some require extra features or higher pricing tiers to be able to use. One thing I would want to really see if we have a look at integrations here. Yes, we can log time, but where does that go? Are you manually putting it on an invoice? We've got time tracking. Okay, so that kind of answers my question here, is that it does do a bit of time integration, but you can, or does its own time tracking, but you can bring in some of these. Now, less so with Toggle, but definitely with Harvest and Time Doctor, you can integrate it with your invoicing, and that's predominantly Xero or QuickBooks, I believe. So getting your time tracked out and into an invoice is critical. So if you're going to do any kind of project management, it's not just simply good enough to have a nice to have little time entry. You need to be able to put it into something that's going to charge money for it. And you need to be able to have all the background history, be able to see who, for what job, for what task, the notes that goes on there. Because when you send an invoice out for time, people want to know, what did I get charged for? So you need to be able to pull that out and put it on an invoice. All right, so Discord, okay, that's for your communications outside, which is kind of like the open source version of Slack. I see there's at least one CRM integration. HubSpot's very expensive though, and I'd like to see exactly how much the integration works. Custom apps, presume people can build stuff. Email, ClickUp email. Okay, post replies. Okay, so you can link it out. Send email to anyone outside of ClickUp. Great. All right, so let's look at people. So we must be in the detailed settings area. So all of those settings that when I was back here and I have a look down at the bottom and I click this little arrow, that's kind of like the settings menu. We do have dark mode for the whole of platform, not just the sidebar. If anyone likes that. We do have hotkeys. We talked about that / command, which is there, assigned to self. And again, no one cares about this unless you're doing it over and over and over again, like home or chat or, clear filters. Like that one I'd probably never use. Close any task or window, open notepad, maybe open notepad, particularly if, you get a call, you need to open it up quickly, but you can also just open up your Windows notepad or whatever else as well. That's the other thing, is where else is this going to get used? This does have a mobile app, the 3 different ads. There's varying degrees of what you get. And then all of these like bold text, italicized. I don't know that many people would use that. Code block. Okay. Again, unless you're a real power user, you're not going to use most of those. So / command seems to be the only one you really need. These cool things, I guess they've kind of identified as things that are used most. And that all important help key, which is really important to be able to find out what the platform allows. But overall, look, I think it seems pretty nice. It seems like you can get in and use the platform pretty easily. Here we go. Do we have download for Windows desktop? So it looks like a desktop application that we can download. .exe, great. So it's a platform. Now, sometimes the desktop apps help it to run faster, particularly if your internet is not necessarily the fastest. This does mean that I will have to go and uninstall the platform later, but having it on the desktop, maybe there could be a sync issue. I don't necessarily think that you're going to be able to use the platform without without logging in, without using it as though it is a desktop. And then I presume if I sign in, that I can use it in the desktop mode. So that could be handy, particularly if you want to reduce the amount of internet you're using, particularly if you're going and hotspotting from place to place. It'll make it a lot easier. All right. So that's pretty much it. Obviously, we've got some other bits and pieces, your template center, trash. We looked at template center. So presumably, hopefully, if you delete something, you can always come and find it. Oh, yeah, we go. We recover it after 30 days. And then you've got the ability to play with security permissions once, of course, you've paid for it. And it looked like only if you're on the enterprise plan. One other thing I would like to do, you've got this view thing here. So I can change what I'm looking at into a Kanban view. I can hide and show different fields. I can filter. So you can say, I only want to see things that are due today or due next week or in the next week, or that started on a particular date, that closed at a particular date. There are templates. We can have, looks like multiple filters. So you want to see only things that are due tomorrow that I own, or that, Jerry owns, or that somebody else in your organization owns. It looks like you can have saved views. So you want to see a particular team, a table, whiteboard. That was that new thing. Embed. So YouTube. So for example, you want to embed running a channel. You might want to have the channel embedded so that you can maybe have your training videos, or you can see what you're working on, that sort of thing. So mind map. And I think we can do that for tasks. Yeah, right. Okay. So basically task and subtask. And then when you expand it out, now we can open it up and there's our product card or task card. And again, everything is exactly the same. It's just a view on how to access it. Okay. So that's it. Thank you. It's been wild. It's been fun. I really appreciate you following me along and doing the unboxing today. So that was ClickUp, and it is a project management tool, and you'll discover that it's very similar to a lot of other project management tools out there. It looks nice. It's a point solution, but I question whether or not it's got any of those management control functions. So as always, I would encourage you to like, subscribe. If you've got any other questions, please put them below in the comments. Is there anything else you'd like us to do an unboxing or a trial of, then please, again, let us know in the comments. If you do subscribe, please also hit the bell so you'll get notified every time we release a new demo. So thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you next time. Please watch one of the other videos or check out some of the other things in our feed, and give a like and subscribe. Share this channel with anybody else that you think would add value to. Otherwise, thank you and take care.